Hello writers, and welcome back to Heart Breathings. Today we are going to talk about 5 ways that writers hold themselves back. And this is one of those videos where I'm basically talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you. So I'm very intimate with the subject of this video, let's just put it that way. Okay, these are in no particular order, but one way that a lot of writers, we tend to hold ourselves back is we make excuses. This is true pretty much in every facet of our lives, but here's how it pertains specifically to our lives as writers. We tend to make excuses about why we're not number one at this genre, or why we haven't finished the book yet, or why we weren't writing today, or a million different things. Truth is, those types of excuses aren't really serving you in any way other than to hold you back, to give you some sort of comfort as to why your sales numbers aren't what they wanted to be, or why you've had this book that you've wanted to write for the past 5 years that still isn't done. Those excuses do nothing but hold you down where you are, or even drag you further down. Like, here's some examples of excuses I hear from writers and out of my own mouth all the time. There's never enough time. I don't have enough time to get everything I need to do done. And this is actually a problem that a lot of us have, that we feel like, we've either got kids at home, or we've got a full-time job, or it's just really difficult to balance the marketing that you need to do with getting the books out that you want to get out. But the truth is, there is enough time, because there are how many people who are in the indie world now who are making 6 figures plus every year, and they have exactly the same 24 hours in a day as you do. And most of them started out just like you, where they had a full-time job, or they had kids at home, or they had a million other responsibilities that they had to take care of. We all have laundry, we all have groceries to go get at the store. We all have that, but we also all have the same 24 hours. It comes down to, how are you spending your time? And when you step away from the excuse of, I don't have enough time, which kind of becomes a way to allow yourself to not write today, or to not get the things done that you need to get done. And you really look at it and say, okay, instead of giving this excuse, I am going to actually start to track my time. I'm going to get a planner, or I'm going to use an app on my phone that tracks my time, and I'm going to see where I'm really spending it. And chances are you're going to find that you have, 5 nights a week that you're watching your favorite show on television, or you're reading books, or you're sitting there scrolling on Facebook, or pinning 1,000 images on Pinterest. And there's all these things. Now, I know relaxation and taking time for yourself are important too, but if you could just cut that back a little bit and really reclaim your time, then you wouldn't have that excuse anymore. You wouldn't have that to fall back on. So having those types of excuses is just a way to stay exactly where you are and have an excuse for why you're not being as successful as you really truly want to be deep down. Some other excuses that I hear people say are, I'm just not good at marketing. I don't enjoy it. I don't know what I'm doing. Or, what I really want to write doesn't sell well enough, and I feel really discouraged, so I don't think I should put myself out there. Or, what I really write doesn't sell, so I've been trying to write this other thing that I hate writing because it's more marketable, and you don't really understand why you're not finishing the book. Well, write what you want to write, and then figure out a way to make money at it. Using that as an excuse that what I like to write doesn't sell is just another way of holding you back and keeping you in this little box, so that you don't actually find your level of success and passion of your greatest life. One of my favorite ones to use is, I'm exhausted. And a lot of the time it is true, but a lot of the time it's just mornings for me. I'm not really a morning person, or I haven't been in the past, but because I have a little guy at home, and ever since he was born, I need to write more in the mornings because he's at school, he's busy, or my husband's helping to watch him in the mornings, and it's so much easier. By the time I get to the evenings, which would be my ideal writing time a lot of the times, I really am exhausted because I've been being a mom and a business person and entrepreneur all day, and I'm tired. But when I wake up in the morning, even though I could set all these amazing goals the night before, I wake up in the morning and I just think, oh God, I'm so tired. But that is really not true, because on the days like today, where I feel so tired when I wake up, but then I go upstairs, I play some good music, I make an effort to wake myself up and get motivated for the day, then I don't feel so tired anymore. And I get pumped about the things, like I review my to-do list and I get pumped about it. Oh yeah, I was going to write that really cool scene today, or I was going to, record this video today. And those types of things start to get me pumped up. So the truth is, I wasn't really exhausted. I have plenty of energy. It's a mindset thing. It's this habit that we have kind of as human beings of making excuses so that we don't have to actually work for our dreams. And it seems so counterintuitive, but it's this mystery of life. It's like, why do we want something so hard, so much with all our hearts? But then when it comes down to do the work, we make a million excuses for why we can't do it. I'm too tired. I don't have enough time. I'm not going to be good enough at it. It's never going to sell. We make all these excuses, but the truth is those excuses are a lie that we tell ourselves to hold ourselves back. So the solution to this is to start becoming more aware, whether you need to journal, or whether you need to start, taking apart each one of those excuses. What are the ones that you use the most? Is it that you don't have enough time? Then do, like I said, start a time tracking app. Schedule it out in your day where you're going to write, even if it's just a 30-minute sprint on your lunch break or 1 hour when you get home every day. No matter how tired you are, you have that hour. Or come home and relax, and after dinner you're going to sit down for 1 sprint a day. I promise you have just as much time as every other successful person on the planet. It's just a matter of examining those excuses and figuring out why you're holding yourself back using those excuses. Number 2, we focus on the negative. And if you are a part of the author community in social media, you see this all the time in a lot of groups where people focus on, this is what's changed at Amazon. I can't believe Google did this, or, Kindle Unlimited is destroying everything, or, I can't go wide because I only make money in Kindle Unlimited, or they reduced the payout this month and I'm not making as much as I used to, or, insert any number of negative things that you have zero control over in your life. When we focus on those types of things, it's not serving us in any way. All it does is continue to pull us down into this negative mindset. It lowers our energy. It lowers our entire motivation to keep working. And it's like sinking in quicksand, that the more you focus on those negative thoughts, and especially the things that you can't control, like I can't control exactly what my sales numbers are. There are things I can do to help them, like taking out advertisements, writing the best books I can, all the things I talk about in my Writing a Best-Selling series videos here on YouTube. You can do those things and you have control over those things, but the end result is honestly not within your control. You can't just change your sales numbers today. But if you focus on the fact that they're lower than you want them to be, you're not making enough money, and you just continue to let those thoughts rule your mind and you continue to wallow in negativity, guess what? You're not going to want to write. You're not going to feel excited or pumped about what's coming next. You're going to be marketing from a place of desperation, anxiety, anger, fear. Fear is the number one thing that, we tend to operate on. And the truth is, most of us as writers are very sensitive people. We're very much people that are in our minds all the time. We think about everything and we tend to let those thoughts sort of spiral. And when you get into like a negativity spiral and you focus on the things that you can't control, like your sales numbers, how well someone else is doing compared to you, things that the vendors have changed, like, oh man, when Google Play stopped, showing their free books in their genre lists, my sales literally halved. But if I had sat there and said, oh my gosh, Google Play did this, and now my income's done, and I had just let myself wallow in that for weeks on end, I would have gotten no writing done, no new books out, and I would never have done anything that actively brought me better sales at Google Play. One of the ways that you can fix this, or that you can begin to combat this, is to, first of all, be aware of the negative thoughts. Be aware of the people that you spend time with on social media and in author groups. And when things start to get super negative, we all want to have that shoulder to cry on. We all want to feel like we're not alone when we are complaining about things that is unfair. But how many times in your writer's life have you been like, that happened and it's not fair? Okay, what are you going to do about it? You can't change how Kindle operates. You can't change what Google Play decides to do. You can't change how some sort of upload happened or a mistake happened with your pre-order. It sucks. Deal with it, move on. But you've got to be aware of those negativity spirals and find a way, find some good tools that work for you to pull you out of it. Whether it becomes what you would call like cheesy affirmations, like, I can't control this, but I know that I'm a great writer and things are going to turn around for me. Or she may be more successful, but I'm going to use that as motivation so that this time next year I am like her. And then start to come up with a plan for how you're going to combat whatever it was that's pulling you down into this negativity. If it's low sales, then start coming up with a new revenue plan. Maybe you need to do a new series. Maybe you need to rebrand your covers. There's a million ways that you can work to try to increase your sales, increase your visibility. And yes, some of these things are long-term strategies, but the longer you stay in your negative spiral or your life of excuses and the things that you can't control, the less you're going to get done. So stop those negative thoughts in their tracks. Like, learn to recognize them, learn to control your own mindset when it comes to the negativity, and find a way to turn it around. My therapist from years ago used to call this reframing, which is probably like an official like psychoanalysis term or whatever, but it really works. Like, when you become aware of those negative thoughts, you can find ways to reframe them. So when you say, gosh, my sales really suck today, it will do a lot of good for your mindset to say, but they're going to be better tomorrow. But don't just take it to that step. Then come up with an action plan, not based on fear, but based on excitement of who you know you were always born to be. Because if you know that you are meant to be a writer, this is your calling, this is what you want to do, and you know you're putting your whole heart into it, then there's going to be ways that you can believe in yourself, get past the negativity, and come up with a plan for how you're going to turn things around. Then start executing that plan and focusing on the positive. Tell yourself, by this time next year, I am going to have a book that hits #1 in its category, and here's exactly how I'm going to do it. If you raise your energy, get rid of that negative thought and negative self-talk, negative Facebook groups, step away from those types of negative influences in your life, including your own thoughts. I promise you're going to see results from that. And you will begin to get on this, the same way you can have that negativity spiral, you'll begin to move on this positive spiral. Now, we all have days where just things are not going great. That's okay, but you have to stop it in its tracks, stop the negativity spiral, and start raising your energy. Start coming up with ways that you can support yourself instead of continuing to sink down in that quicksand. The number 3 way that writers often hold themselves back is we stop learning. If you have ever heard yourself say or think, well, this is as good as I'm ever going to get, so I don't need to learn plot, or I don't need to learn more about story structure. Or if you've heard yourself, like if you've heard a bunch of reviewers say something like, well, I loved the writing in this book, but the plot didn't make sense. Or you've got a lot of reviews that say, gosh, this person really needed a better editor. If you come at it from a place of ego and you say, I paid $300 for that editor and I know exactly what I'm doing, then you're never going to get better. We have to step outside the ego of thinking that we know everything, or that we're never going to be able to learn or grasp a new concept, or we're never going to be able to grow in certain ways. We hold ourselves back from learning the thing that's going to get us to that next level. So, if you love your editor and she's your sister-in-law and, you think she's done a lot to help you, but you're constantly getting reviews or comments from beta readers or friends that are reading it saying, there's a lot of typos here, or that's not how you use this word. Maybe you have to step back from your devotion to your sister-in-law and face facts and say, you know what, I'm going to try a different editor, or I'm going to pick up Strunk & White's element of style and I'm going to learn more about how to use commas, or I'm going to learn to write more likable characters, or at least characters where the reader understands their motivations. When we stop learning because we're sure that we know everything and we've become stubborn, that, we think we've got it all on lockdown, we also stop opening ourselves up to the opportunities for growth. And I think that's one of the main ways that writers hold themselves back. And the same thing goes with the marketing side of it. I've heard a lot of writers say before, like, well, I'm just not good at marketing, and I've tried everything and I still can't get my series to take off. Well, Have you? I mean, really? Have you tried everything? Because there are so many different strategies out there, so many different tactics. Have you really taken a good hard look at these covers that you love, but maybe aren't selling your book or selling the genre the way that you want it to? Maybe you need to take a closer look at that. Step back from the ego of thinking you knew what was best and listen to feedback from some people around you that might be helping you learn how to better package these great novels that you've written. Or, for example, maybe you have tried a lot of things, but maybe you haven't tried engaging with your fans more. Maybe you haven't tried a different type of newsletter strategy. Maybe you've never tried doing a pre-order before, or you've never tried not doing a pre-order. Sometimes we think we know everything, we've got the formula down, or we're scared of something, so we stop learning, we stop seeking. And I know that sometimes as indie authors especially, it can feel like there's just so much to learn that we can't possibly take it all in. So what I like to do is, I've got my board that I did a video on, and I will add sometimes in my goals that there are these courses that I want to take or videos that I want to watch so that I can continue learning. I also, even though I've just published my 23rd novel, I am well aware that I have a lot to learn as a writer. I feel like I'm still just kind of a noob at this. There's always that next level. Even Stephen King, in one of his more recent short story anthologies, said something along the lines of he still feels like he's a new writer because he's always still learning. And that is one of the reasons that Stephen King is as successful as he is and continues to get better and better in his storytelling. If we stop and we just say, well, I don't have anything else to learn, or I have to write so fast I don't care to learn anymore, then you're going to start to see that you're holding yourself back from the next level of craft and from the next level of success with your marketing. There's always room to learn. So I think sometimes it's important for writers to step back for a minute and say, where can I improve? And constantly be working on improving their craft, improving their ability to market, improving their conversations and relationships with their readers. There's always ways to improve, and so don't stop learning. Okay, the fourth way that writers hold themselves back is we don't prioritize well. We have a jillion and one things on our to-do list, plus you've actually got to get your writing done, and like I just said, you got to find some time to go read that Elements of Style book and actually implement it in your writing. We need to do paperbacks. We got to do formatting. We got to find a better cover artist. I mean, I could just go on and list a million things that need to get done. The bottom line is that you need to sit down and figure out where your current priorities are. This is a big part of why I do a 90-day plan, because instead of getting overwhelmed by everything there is to do and only sort of halfway doing a bunch of different tasks, I know exactly what I'm focusing on this quarter, and I just let everything else go. It's changed my whole career. It's changed my sanity. It's changed my ability to focus on the actual writing that needs to get done, because I know exactly what I need to tackle now, and I prioritize those tasks. Writing is always the number one priority. Writing and learning how to be a better writer is always the priority, except when I have a new release coming up or when I'm promoting a big sale. Sometimes when I've just finished writing a book and it's gone off to the editor and the beta readers, my priorities shift and now I'm in full launch mode. So sometimes the focus is on the marketing, but usually that's just for a very short period of time for me personally, because I see so much more return and so much more income potential in getting the next book of that series out than I do in changing my blurbs. So I prioritize those things, whereas I might spend 3 hours a day on writing, an extra hour on learning how to be a better writer or reading better writers so that I can understand how they're portraying certain things. Then I would spend maybe 30 minutes working on a couple of blurbs or optimizing my keywords. But I've found what works for me based on where I am in my current career. If I was just starting out and I hadn't actually published my first book, I see a lot of people who are not even published yet, but they're spending so much time in Facebook groups, on online forums, learning about the process of self-publishing. And that is great. But then when you ask them, how's their book going? They're like, oh, I have no time to write. I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to that are like this. It's easy to get wrapped up in the how am I going to do this and ignore the actual fundamental priority, which is getting those books written. So to not hold yourself back, that's all you need to get done this week, and you can set out exactly when you intend to do it and how much time you think everything's going to take. If you start a process like that and you start prioritizing the things that need to get done, you're much less likely to spend 5 hours this week on Facebook reading posts about how 20 other people got their books done this week and 25 other people like hit the top 1,000 in Kindle Unlimited with their newest release. Like, that stuff does you no good in terms of your own career. All it does is make you compare yourself to others, make you freak out about what if my book isn't successful, or why am I not making as much money? Like, it's great to hear other people talk about their successes, but when you're really prioritizing your own life and your own career, that should be like way down on the totem pole. So take some time to be really specific and deliberate about where you're spending your time and what your priorities are, and I guarantee you'll stop holding yourself back in a major way. Okay, and the fifth and final thing that I'm going to talk about in terms of how writers hold themselves back is we doubt ourselves. Like I said earlier, writers are very emotional beings. We are very much in our head, and we tend to let our thoughts and our mindset and our feelings and emotions dictate how much work we get done, how much we step outside of our comfort zone, how much we take that big risk to, go big and have the life that we always dreamed. We really need our minds to be in the right place, but it is so easy to get caught up in things that really bring our energy down. Like the things I was talking about before, but also doubting ourselves, feeling like, what if I'm putting this work into this career and it doesn't take off? What if other people think I'm stupid? What if I publish this book and everybody in my town or everybody in my family thinks that I have no talent? Or who does she think she is for thinking she can write a book and be a success? Like that imposter syndrome, that's a major thing that holds a lot of us back, because we look at all these successful people and we think, well, that's never going to be me. But doubting yourself is never going to get you to the top of your career. It's not going to help you in any way. All it does is pull you back down into that quicksand, and it makes you doubt every word that you're putting on the page. I go through this a lot. Like, there's this cycle of my books, which I think probably 99% of writers go through, where I always hit a point in the story where I'm thinking, I can't do this. It's not coming out the way I wanted. The story isn't cooperating. I feel like I'm just writing gibberish on the page. I know I'm going to have to throw this out. I'm not sure I can do this. What if I can't deliver on this book? And then what if my career? And then there goes that negative thought spiral of doubting myself and my own abilities. What I have to do when those types of doubts start creeping in is I have to talk to some of my best friends who will no doubt tell me, Sarah, you do this every time and it always comes out fine. And go look at reviews on your last book. Everything turned out fine and you felt the same way and the same worries. Just keep going, trust your process. And I have those people. My husband says the same thing. Like, I remember very vividly, like probably on book maybe 10 or 11 of my career, I like laid across the bed, in dramatic fashion and told my husband, like, this is the worst book I've ever written. And he started laughing at me. And I was like, why are you laughing? And he said, because you do this every single book. And I had no idea that I did it. But I began to recognize it later, that there is just a point in the writer process where we think, I can't do this. This is the worst book. These words aren't any good. But you have to learn to push past it. Don't let the self-doubt keep you from writing to the end of the book. Because I see a lot of people, like, especially if you are watching this right now and you are someone who has started 10 different books, but you've never actually finished anything, or you've never actually finished editing anything, then I can guarantee you a part of that is because somewhere deep inside, somewhere in the process, you begin doubting yourself and your abilities and whether this book is good enough. And you think it's going to be too hard, or that you really need something else. And what our subconscious mind does to keep us out of that place of discomfort and pushing to the end and pushing to greatness is our ego. And that little child inside us says, you know what, here's this other really great idea, and I bet you'd be so good at this one. And beginnings of stories are typically more fun because we're world building, and it's easy because you're just kind of setting the stage. You don't have to figure out like the climax and the big moments at the end and the really hard stuff that comes in editing. So that little voice inside of us says, you're not this one just isn't working out for you, go do this other one. You have to stop listening to that voice, because that is nothing but self-doubt and self-sabotage. Sometimes there may be stories that are totally like unsavable and you should just let them go. But if you find yourself in a pattern of hitting that moment of doubt and then jumping on the next new story and then taking that for a ride until you hit the moment of self-doubt again, and then, ooh, there's another like plot bunny that you're going to explore, then what you're facing is extreme self-doubt and self-sabotage. Even if you think this is the worst book anyone in the history of writing has ever written, finish the book. Get past those fears. Tell yourself, I'm going to finish this even if it's terrible. Give yourself permission for that book to suck completely, but finish it. Then when you get a chance to edit it or set it aside or whatever your process is, go through and edit it until you make it good. Because you know what? A lot of us write really terrible books the first way through. This is why I use word sprints to help push me, because I can say to myself, well, this sucks, but I'm going to sit down for 25 minutes and I'm going to write even more sucky words. And it's going to be okay, because I'm going to prove to myself that I can write 1,000 more words or 250 more words. And somewhere between the moments and that wall of just incomprehensible doubt and 25-minute sprints here and there, I push past, and there's like the light at the end of the tunnel, and suddenly the story starts to come together. Now, sometimes it means I throw out 30,000 words and I have to start that whole section over again. But those 30,000 words are full of energy, because now I've figured out the story, and it's literally the closest to magic I think I've ever been in my life. And if you have not reached those points in your own writing, it's because you're too afraid and you're doubting your own abilities. You've got to stop doing that. Believe in yourself when it comes to the writing, and push through those doubts. Another way that we start to let those doubts hold us back is, maybe the reviews didn't come in, or maybe we've already got 3 books up and the sales just aren't what they wanted to be. And maybe you've got all these debts and all these bills are accumulating. You were really hoping that this writing gig would be the thing that pulls you out of the muck. So when you start to get into that same thing as the focusing on the negativity, when you start to really doubt yourself and your abilities, doubt your career, doubt that the series is going well, you have to find a way to push past it, to not react to that panic that's like starting to bubble up, that anxiety and those self-doubts. Don't let that sabotage. Like, feel what you're feeling and then step back and take a look at it and say, is this true? Just had a really good release, like much better than the last one. You have to really look at the truth, because self-doubt tends, just like fear, it tends to lie to us. And I think that it's important to not panic and self-sabotage and completely change the game when you've just had a little bit of a hiccup or you're just starting to doubt yourself. The more you can learn to recognize self-doubt and self-sabotage from like the need to like intuitively, the need to really change things up, the better off you're going to be, because those two things can get very tricky to understand the difference between them. But self-doubt is what comes up when we're putting ourselves out of our comfort zone, when we're trying new things, and when we're just too afraid that we're not going to be able to see it through. I know several authors who had series that were languishing, things that weren't doing very well, but they stuck with it because they believed in that series. And by book 5, they were rolling in the dough, like 6-figure income. And it happens for some people and it doesn't happen for some people. But even if you believed in it and you made it all the way through a 6-book series and it didn't just quite take off, instead of panicking and self-doubt and allowing yourself to spend a year like on the couch, eating Cheetos and watching Netflix, take the time to say, okay, what didn't work about this series? Was it not placed in the right genre? Maybe the covers weren't right. Maybe I just still had a lot to learn about craft and I didn't start things off right. Or maybe my characters just really weren't that likable and I need to work more on character motivation and pacing, or more on dialogue. Whatever it is, like, take a hard eye at it. Instead of just wallowing in the self-doubt of, oh my gosh, my series didn't sell, start looking at the things you can change. When it comes to all 5 of these, it's really all about your own mindset. It's about learning to really step back and take a look at the thoughts that are going through your head and the things that are negative, whether you can control them or not. Instead of focusing on those negative thoughts and allowing it to sabotage your career or to make you not write for 5 days in a row or 5 months in a row, really take a look at those things and begin to figure out from a state of awareness how you can change them, how you can turn it around. Even if it takes something like waking up every morning and writing down in a journal all the reasons why you love being a writer and you're so excited to get to that next series or to start over or to do something new or to write that next scene, you need to try to pull yourself out of negative thoughts, out of excuses about what everyone does, because the truth is, saying it's not fair. It may not be fair, but life is just not fair. And we have to learn to navigate, the ins and outs of this very tricky business. But if you focus on, it's not fair, this is why I can't do this, everything's negative, everything's against me, or you say, I'm not going to learn because I'm going to, I already know everything I'm doing and it's just not working. If you focus on those types of thoughts, you are going to stay where you are or you're going to drop even lower. So if you really want to reach for your fullest potential, for your dream life, then you have to recognize these things, see which ones of them resonate with you, which ones you might be doing in your own life, and find a way to pull yourself out of them, to be aware of when you're doing it and have tools to pull yourself out of them when you find yourself just spiraling into those thoughts. Now, like I said in the beginning, this is something I need to hear for myself as well, because this business is very much like riding on open seas, and sometimes there's going to be storms and there's going to be things that affect your sales. There's going to be times when you don't feel like writing, and there's going to be times when you get bad reviews, and there's going to be times when you compare yourself to other people. But in the end, if you want to be successful, focusing on those negative things and those things that hold us back are not going to be your savior. They do nothing for you but keep you down. So hopefully this list has helped you kind of think through some of your own excuses, some of the negative thoughts that hold you back. And what I encourage you to do after you watch this is to comment below with something like a limiting belief of some type that has held you back in your career. And I would love to hear how you plan to shift things, how you want to shift your energy, how you want to shift your mindset, your mood. There are always ways to shift that energy. So wherever you feel the negative energy that's holding you back, start really thinking through, make a list of things that you can try until you land on something that's going to work. Because if you truly want to be a success at this writing business, you're going to have to learn to master your own mindset and your own time. All right, guys, I hope this video has helped you. And if it has, please go and check out some of my other videos. And I hope that you'll subscribe and click that notification bell to get notified as soon as a new video goes up from me. And while you're at it, if you are new to self-publishing or you're about to self-publish, head over to heartbreathings.com, where I have a free download for you about everything you need before you self-publish. It walks you through an entire checklist and explanation of all the little details you need to get, like deciding your keywords, whether or not you need an ISBN, whether or not you're going to use a pen name. It walks you through all those kinds of decisions. So hopefully you'll go and snag that free download, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.